friends, I'm Haley and welcome back to my channel. Today I decided to do something maybe a little bit different. I guess it's not too off course for me since I just did my story wrap up of everything that I read and listened to and watched in June. So I've been watching a lot of Booktube lately, and that's actually what got me to read The Upside of Unrequited and This Savage Song, and I found that I want to keep talking specifically about just books. So I've decided that I'm going to do the Booktube Newbie Challenge, and I don't feel like my channel will ever be completely just Booktube, but I've really started to enjoy it so much, and I spend a lot of time, the majority of the YouTube videos I watch are Booktube, so I felt like it was very natural for me. Question 1 is, why did you start this channel? And I know my channel has been around for a little while and it didn't start specifically for Booktube, so I'll talk about why I've decided to incorporate Booktube into my channel. And that's because I just really love storytelling and I love talking about books, and I don't have a lot of friends that necessarily read the same books as I do, so it's really nice to know that I have this platform where I can talk about what books I really like and hopefully start a conversation and find people to talk to about them with. Question 2 is, what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to Booktube? I actually think there's a lot of things that kind of set me apart from other Booktubers, specifically because a lot of people on Booktube really like to talk about YA, and while I do enjoy YA quite a bit, I have a tendency to read more adult books and classics, so I think I can bring a different voice. Plus, I really like graphic novels, which I still haven't gotten too far into Booktube, but what I've seen, not a whole lot of people talk a lot about graphic novels, but I have a lot of them and I constantly buy them, so that's another thing that I can always talk about. Also, I actually wanted some feedback in the comments about whether people would be interested in hearing specifically reviews dedicated to older books. For instance, right now I'm reading Les Miserables, which is a very long and old book, and no matter what, I'm going to do at least a review of that one because I think there's a lot of interesting talking points, even though I'm only 80 pages in so far. But in general, would you like hearing about books that came out 20, 30, maybe just 10 years ago? Or do Booktube viewers really just prefer to hear reviews of modern books that have just been released? I also want to kind of challenge myself, I guess, to try to incorporate or kind of mesh books and film, and I'm starting to come up with some ideas today, and we'll see how that continues. But I think that's another fun, unique, different thing that I can bring to the table. Number 3, what are you most excited about for this new channel, and again, just for this new addition to my channel? I'm really excited, as I kind of already mentioned before, to just have other people to talk about these stories that I love with. I noticed in my June stories, a couple of people, even who didn't comment necessarily, I kind of changed their mind, or not changed their mind, but opened their minds about Ready Player One, and they just said, you know, I see your point that it's kind of an easier book, and I by no means think there's anything wrong if you love the book, but it's really rewarding to know that you've made somebody think of something in a different way. And hopefully someone can make me see something in a different light too. A lot of other YouTubers have also really opened up my mind to books that I normally might not find or expose myself to. So again, I'm hoping to also just communicate with other booktubers aside from just comments. 4, why do you love reading? I love any form of storytelling. As you could probably guess, since my degree's in film, I like filmmaking obviously a lot. I love books. When I was in elementary school, I was coming up with ideas for stories that I wanted to write. And it's an idea that I still will not give up on, even though I have not written it yet. And then in middle school, I came up with another book idea, which is still just nagging at my brain to just write it down, and I don't know what's keeping me from it. Hopefully becoming more involved in Booktube will motivate me to actually start putting pen to paper. I've tried, I've put little blurbs together, but I think I'm a little scared still, so hopefully I can get some encouragement from people for that. But I think a lot of people don't understand my job as an editor, I don't know people realize how much storytelling is involved. You don't just get a script, put it together, and then send it away. A lot of times things have to get deleted. You have to rearrange scenes. Sometimes you have to make a whole story from it. That's what a lot of documentary is. Editing can be just as involved when it comes to storytelling as when the screenwriter sits down and writes that draft. They say that if you want to go into being a director and you already have a background in film that isn't related to directing, that the easiest way to get in is through screenwriting or editing, because those are the most involved storytellers. So overall, every part of me just loves storytelling. That's why I'm always watching movies, always reading books, just constantly surrounding myself by fiction, nonfiction, anything I can get my hands on. Question 5 is, what series got you into reading? And that would be The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. Ignore that I don't have the first book, it's misplaced somewhere in my house. When the first Princess Diaries movie came out, I was obsessed with it before it even came out. I don't know what it was about this movie. It might have just been all of the hype that they had on the Disney Channel, but I remember printing out little screen caps that they had released on their website. There were like 6 of them. I pasted them into my little binder that I used for one of my classes, and I stared at them and I was trying to figure out the plot line, and I remember saying, like, I saw a picture of Anne Hathaway with Eric Von Detten, and I liked Brink, so I was like, oh, he's gonna be the good love interest. And then I saw her with Robert Schwartzman, who plays Michael, and I was like, she doesn't want that guy. His hair is slicked back, obviously he looks evil. Anyway, so needless to say, I loved the movie, and once I found out it was based on a book, I immediately went and picked it up. And the book series is very different from the movie. It's a little bit, I don't know if this is the best word to describe it, but the word that comes to mind for me is grittier than the movies, but I love them both for what they are separately. And that's my favorite book and movie thing, is when the adaptation is very different from the book. I know a lot of people get mad when it's so different from the book, but it feels like a new story experience. So it was something new to expose myself to. It was funny. I wrote my journals like she did for the longest time, where I would put the date and where I was and the time, the exact when I started writing it. And I really love the multimedia of the text messages and emails. Like, it was such a fresh book, and I've never forgotten the influence that it has on my life. I still, if anything has like mixed media, when I looked through the book Illuminae, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't read it yet, but it's definitely on my TBR, and I'm going to be reading it before too long, because that is right up my alley, thanks to The Princess Diaries. Number 6 is, what questions would you like to ask your favorite booktubers? First of all, I would like to ask how everybody gets all those pictures of their book hauls with all the stacks of books in their thumbnail photos so well, because I just did it for the first time, and it is not an easy task. Oh my gosh, I have a whole new respect for booktubers. But in a more serious light, one of the things I really respect about YouTubers, and that I've still been struggling with, that I'm trying to get better at, is creativity and keeping videos coming out on time. So I would ask how you always come up with new ideas for videos, because I don't know, it's very hard to keep up with. I've been managing to do it since I've started this new schedule of mine, but I'm a little scared I'm gonna lose track again, because it's a lot of creativity that you have to put into it. Question 7, I kind of just answered in the previous question, but it's, what challenges about starting a booktube channel do you think will be the hardest to overcome? So what I just said about trying to stay creative and coming up with new ideas and posting consistently is going to be a challenge, but I also think it's going to be a challenge just to keep up with reading a little bit. I'm going to try my best, and I've been doing a lot better thanks to audiobooks. They've changed my life, and I still do read physical books, but aside from just not having a whole lot of time, I've discovered recently that I'm not quite the fastest reader. I really like to take everything in. So I just don't know if I'm gonna have enough material to talk about. And that's why I'm just not simply dedicating my channel completely to booktube, or that's one of the reasons. That there's just so many things that I want to talk about, but I hope I can continue to bring out fresh booktube material at least a couple times a month. Question 8 is, when did you start reading? And I think it's a little bit of a weird question, because everybody starts reading at the same time in elementary school, but if it means like when did you start reading for pleasure, I feel like that was also kind of answered with the what series got you into reading. So I would say middle school is when I really started to make more of an effort to read for pleasure. Question 9 is, where do you read? So it depends on if I'm listening to an audiobook or reading a physical book. If I am listening to an audiobook, it's generally in the car or when I'm putting on makeup. I'm still trying to get myself into the habit of doing it like when I'm at the grocery store or just out and about. I do listen to it a little bit at the gym, but I'm also, a lot of times I want to just listen to some music and get a good workout in. If it's a physical book, I spend most of my time reading books in the bath, but also in bed. And the final question, number 10, is what kind of books do you like to read? This is an interesting question because I know what genres I like, but it's not what I end up reading the most. For some reason, I read contemporary the most, but I would call it one of my least favorite genres. I don't know what that is about. Don't ask me to explain. I can't explain it, but like the Princess Diaries books, The Devil Wears Prada, I ate it up. P.S. I Love You, I loved that book. I mean, there's plenty more, but it's very strange that I would say that my favorite genre is fantasy, but for whatever reason, I end up reaching for contemporary a lot more than I give myself credit for. But I really feel like fantasy is my favorite genre, and I'm recently discovering that I like, and I don't know what to call it. I kind of feel like it's historical fiction, but it's also classics, because classics take place in historical times. So just books that take place in earlier centuries, basically. I think I've been saying lately that I wish I had paid more attention in history classes in high school. Like, I did okay in them, but I never actually grasped a lot of what I learned. And now that I'm older, I'm really starting to enjoy history, so I'm really reaching for those books more often. So that wraps up my Booktube Newbie Tag. I hope you enjoyed it. Please comment below on what kind of things you might like to see from me with my Booktube related videos, and I will see you next week with more book material.